Brilliance Audio presents Second Time Around by Nancy Herkness, performed by Megan Dusing. Kyra Dixon scooped her tray off the counter and headed for the one empty chair, at a table already occupied by a businessman engrossed in his laptop. But this was New York City, so you sat with strangers when it was unavoidable. That made the vacant chair fair game, as long as she didn't attempt to converse with the man. She'd learned that when she first came to Manhattan from Macungie, Pennsylvania, 8 long years ago. It was tough threading her way through the packed-in tables at Ceres, one of the wildly successful chain of cafes, where she splurged once every 2 weeks. The food might be fast, but it was also fresh, with surprising ingredients. Plunking her tray onto the table, she murmured a perfunctory, "Hope you don't mind," before slinging her backpack onto the floor and sitting down. The man nodded, but didn't raise his eyes from his computer, so she allowed herself a quick assessment. The waves of his blonde hair appeared so natural that she knew his haircut had cost more than her week's wages. His navy blue suit fit his broad shoulders without a wrinkle. It must have been custom-tailored. If he'd walked into Stratus, the high-end club where Kyra worked as a bartender, she would expect a big tip from him. In fact, he looked out of place, wedged into the cramped tables here. Shrugging, she picked up her lamb wrap, anticipating the creamy burst of avocado and yogurt spread when she bit into it. It was this combination that tempted her to spend her hard-earned money on eating out before she headed to her bartending job. She sank her teeth through the tomato basil tortilla, relished the rich fattiness of the lamb, and then, no avocado, no yogurt. She put the wrap on the plate and peeled it open. One tiny smear of the creamy spread was positioned right in the center of the tortilla. "Of all the stingy—" "Is there something wrong with your food?" A deep voice with a slight Connecticut intonation made her look up from her defective lamb wrap. She stared. Her companion had raised his head from his laptop, and she could see that his eyes were a deep jade green. She'd only seen eyes like that once before in her life. She tried to overlay the expensively dressed executive with the lanky classics major she'd known back in college. It could be him, with 10 years, a serious haircut, and a lot of success in between. His eyes widened a fraction. Kyra? Kyra Dixon? It was him, the man she'd wanted never to face again. She flattened the palm of her hand against her chest in exaggerated shock. "We'll chase. Who'd have thought we'd run into each other in the seething masses of New York City?" For a moment, he seemed stunned. Then a glint of amused challenge lit his eyes. "I count myself in nothing else so happy as in a soul remembering my good friends." Quote wars. For a moment, she was back at Brunel University, trading quotations with the gorgeous blonde boy from Upper Crust, Connecticut. They'd pick a topic and trade quotes until one of them couldn't think of another appropriate comeback. Will had been her sweet mate's boyfriend, but Babette hadn't been very faithful. So Kyra was often pressed into entertaining him while Babette got rid of another guy. Kyra hadn't found the duty a chore. "Shakespeare is too easy," she scoffed. "Easy, but true, in this case." Kyra dug into the dusty corners of her memory and came back with, "There is flattery in friendship." He nodded his approval. "Back at me with the bard. Well done." Kyra gave a little crow of triumph as she flashed back to the heady days of college when she drank in knowledge like wine. But those days were long gone. She pulled herself back to the present and the somewhat intimidating man across from her.